For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Shotgun Spratling for instant analysis of USC's Wednesday press conference with defensive coordinator Todd Orlando and defensive lineman Nick Figueroa. Shotgun, I'm going to start with you. You started off the presser with a question asking Todd Orlando his takeaways from Sunday's performance. It was an impressive performance by USC's defense. What do you have to say about that?
He said it was another week of them playing loose and free, which he was really, he really liked, and that's something that he's been looking for from this defense, and that's what you've seen from them. They've attacked. If they make a mistake, they move on from it and go right to the next play. They're not really overthinking things. And he said one of the things I thought was interesting is, playing hard with a lot of energy, cutting loose like that. But he said it was nice to see it in back-to-back games to know that it was real after the Utah game. They played really well instead of thinking, oh, do we just get hot in this game, or, is this a sign of progress? So he was happy about that. So they're moving forward from the game and going to try to carry that into, this week's game against UCLA, try to keep it going 3 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting because Orlando was asked what he's learned over the course of the last 4 to 5 weeks. And he said, coming to USC, I knew that these defensive players were great human beings. But part of that was a negative because if they messed up, they took it really personally and were a little too tight. And he talks about playing loose and free. And I think he noticed that he just has to make sure that everyone knows it's okay if you make a mistake, just keep playing aggressively. And I thought that was an interesting thing that he's learned over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this defense, especially when you're going to bring pressure from all over the place, that, if you miss a tackle or if you miss a sack opportunity, what are you going to do the next play? Are you going to let it fester and then it become an issue? Are you going to play passive? No, he wants them to be aggressive, be attacking at all times, and to try to make the most of their opportunities when they're out there. Hey, if you miss one, though, you'll be ready to come back in the next play and be ready to make an impact on that play.
Mm-hmm. He was asked about Talanoa and his performance. We kind of got mixed stories, Shotgun. We heard from Clay Helton on Tuesday that they had installed that Talanoa package for spread teams in preseason, and then Todd Orlando was asked, was that something you did in preseason? And he was like, no, not really. So what do you take away from that?
I think that what he was saying is that, it's part of their defense and something that they will, can do with a guy like Talanoa. He said that he's a unique athlete. He's got the skill set where he can play. He's got the body where he can play linebacker. He's big enough to do that if you need him to, but he can also cover. He said when you have unique guys like that, and you got to get them out there and let them go, go make plays. He was asked about how USC's turnovers, how they've been able to produce so many. He said sometimes just special players making plays. He said, Talanoa tipping a ball up in the air, catching it and hurdling guy is not a coaching decision. Yeah. You try to put them in the right places, but then they got to go make plays. And Talanoa made several of those on Sunday in that game, and he's continued to make plays throughout the season now with three interceptions on the year. But he said, I give him a ton of credit. He said, anytime you're walking by, walking in or out of the building, you're going to see him in a room by himself, working on breaking down film, doing different things, trying to make himself better. He says he asked a ton of questions in meetings and stuff to try to make himself better. So, Todd Orlando gave a ton of credit to Talanoa for being versatile enough that they can use him in different ways. And he said it enables you to be more creative. Because of how well he processes the game, if they want to do something, say, oh, this would work really well against the certain team we're facing, that's something that they will look at and say, hey, maybe we give it to Talanoa because of how well he processes everything, and you don't really burden anyone else on the defense with trying to overthink or whatnot. And, again, goes back to playing loose and free, and he says that Talanoa enables them to have a little bit more creativity, enables them to have the flexibility to have a little more creativity on the defensive side. So he was very quick to praise Talanoa for what he did, but that game plan was specifically for Washington State. I asked if it was something that they had put in earlier, or if it was something that you needed to do just with the inside linebacker depth. It sounded like it was a little bit of both of them there. The opportunity presented itself, and because they've been able to move Talanoa around already this season, that played into it as well.
Mm-hmm. Another person who received praise in the presser was someone who was there, Nick Figueroa. He got praised just for his ability to work hard through adversity. We talked a lot about his journey, JUCO transfer, and Todd Orlando talked about a lot about external talent versus internal talent, and what he meant by that was just working hard and seeing that pay off. It seemed like both of them were really driving off of, if you work hard, things will pay off for you.
Yeah, Todd Orlando said that smart and tough will get you a long way in life. And he said, Nick Figueroa basically embodies that. So he's got talent, and a lot of people have talent, but it's the internal talent that he has in bunches that helps take him to another level. And Nick Figueroa only played 17 snaps in the game on Sunday and had 3 sacks in it. Now Nick gave some credit to Talanoa Funga, said those were like alley-oops, that he was, being thrown for a couple of those because Talanoa got there first, and he was able to clean up afterwards. So just being in the right place, and that's part of what it is doing your job and being in the right place for them when something happens, someone misses a tackle or someone gets there, is there someone there to clean it up? If everyone's doing their job, there should be, and that's what Nick Figueroa, why he's succeeding in this defensive scheme, I think, is because he's just taking care of his business and doing it every day. And Todd Orlando said he goes about it every single day the same way. He said he's very professional in how he goes about every drill, every rep in practice. And so that's why he's not surprised to see him thriving. A guy that not just a junior college transfer, but a guy that went to Cal Poly out of high school and was on Nick Figueroa talked about it. He said he was on an 0-9 team, that was running the triple option. He was on the scout team and was thinking, what's going on here? And decided that, hey, I'm going to go back home. I'm going to go to RCC, Riverside Community College, and they've been putting guys in D1. I'm going to trust my abilities and just continue to work, and you're seeing the results paying off for him this season.
Mm-hmm. Now, Todd Orlando was asked about Pallet Nyota Ote following the news on Monday that he entered the NCAA transfer portal. I know Clay Elton sounded optimistic that they might get him back, and you asked Todd about that. Shotgun, what do you have to say?
Well, first he said that he didn't talk to Pallet Nyota before he went into the transfer portal, said that EA went straight to Helton, and that's what they want. They had that conversation rather than, being the coordinator. I followed up and asked about, if he had a message to try to get him to return, because that's something Helton said. And Todd Orlando said it's all personal stuff. We're going to keep that in the building, but we're going to have open arms. But he said the message will stay between him and Pallier rather than, putting anything out there right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as personnel moves, we know that Greg Johnson is out for this season, and Todd Orlando was asked, how do you make up for that? And I also asked about the inside linebacker depth and if that's an issue. How has he been working through those kind of continuity issues, if you will?
He said that, one of the things they do is every Thursday they go through the what ifs as a defensive staff. What if this guy goes down? What if that guy goes down? Where do you feel comfortable? And then I asked him about, did anybody prove themselves and prove that they need to get more playing time? And this kind of flowed into the same type of thing. He said that, that basically on that Thursday, they go in, they rank their guys. Okay, let's rank them 1 through 7. How much do 6 and 7 need to get some opportunities? And it all comes down to what players do in practice. It's hard to evaluate necessarily just what they did in that game on Sunday against Washington State. Was that a matchup and they succeeded in it, or is it a consistent thing that they've been showing in practice throughout? So he said that it comes back to practice, but he said, they look through things on Thursday and they try to figure out, okay, what happens if something goes down? So he was really, gave a lot of praise to Max Williams for the way he played in that game, made a ton of plays, but also to Chris Steele for stepping in and playing, a different position than what they, than the cornerback spot he's been at. He said, once again, it's those guys are being smart and tough, and if you're smart and tough, then you're gonna be able to make plays. And so he gave a lot of credit there. But expect to see Max Williams be the guy to step in there. He was already rotating a little bit with Greg Johnson. Now the question becomes, if you go to some of those, more defensive back heavy packages like they did in this game with 7 DBs on the field against Washington State, what do you do then? And I think you can do just like they did in this game. You have Chase Williams out there, you have Max Williams out there, but you also have all 3 of the cornerbacks that you trust out there. Isaac Taylor-Stewart played the most he's played so far this season on Sunday, so I think they're getting more confidence in him playing out there as well. So I think you can put all 3 of those guys if you need another DB body.
Mm-hmm. Orlando was asked for his scouting report on UCLA, and he said Chip Kelly likes to run the ball, and he said UCLA's offensive line is not getting enough credit so far this season. What do you have to say about that group, Shotgun?
Yeah, he said that they're doing a really good job up front. They're creating a bubble for the running backs to be able to get some yards before contact. And he said they're just not getting the credit that they probably deserve there. He said they got an explosive offense. They can rack up points really quick. Obviously Demetri Felton in the backfield is a dynamic runner. DTR can do some different things. So I think that he was, pretty complimentary of that UCLA offense. And a lot of coaches are complimentary before you go into a game, and just kind of it's lip service. But this, it seemed pretty genuine what he was talking about. That it seems like there's some real concern for USC going into this game against UCLA, worrying about some of those playmakers that they have on the other side.
Yeah, in that sense, what's your read on this matchup, Shotgun?
I mean, I think it's definitely something that USC should be worried about after seeing what, they put up, 45 points last year against USC, and they, scored points in bunches late in the game to be able to come back in that one in the third, fourth quarter. So USC, they're going to want to, you always want to put it together a shutout, but you're going to want to slow down this offense in particular after seeing what they did last year. And UCLA does some things differently than Washington State does some things differently than we've seen any of the other teams that they face with their downhill running attack. USC struggled to stop the run the first couple games. They've done much better the last two games. I think that's going to be a big emphasis in this game for USC. If you can slow down the run, try to make them one-dimensional, that's always what you want to do as a defense. But in particular, force them to be able to pass the ball and keep up with the USC offense.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, Shotgun. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up here?
I just thought it was interesting, Nick Figueroa talking about trusting the process and going through from being on scout team to now being able to make it and basically betting on himself, seeing that, some of his high school teammates went to D1 schools and going, I can do that too, and deciding to go from Cal Poly to Riverside Community College and make his way. He said, and one of the things that stood out was he said, effort is one of the things you can control. So you just try to control what you can. And effort is something you control every day. So that's one of the reasons why he's, been that type of guy where he just works hard all the time and it's paying off for him. And you love to see those type of stories.
Mm-hmm, of course. Alrighty, that's going to wrap it up for USC's Wednesday press conference. For Shotgun Spratling, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.